Have you ever had a conversation with somebody saying that somebody breaks into your house, when you shoot them, you have to make sure the blast doesn't knock them outside the door because then you might get in trouble? This is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms, and I want to talk a little bit about some of the defensive laws. And, in fact, I'm going to spend most of my time talking about North Carolina laws because that's what I'm more familiar with. Every state has their own version of various laws, so please check with an attorney, check the state laws to make sure that you're not going to apply North Carolina law in New York. That would probably get you thrown into jail. All right, so just a brief overview. We have 50 states in this country so far. Of them, we have 20 states that have castle laws, because, your home is your castle. Another 18 have stand your ground laws, and there's been some controversy over that. And 12 states, and I'll let you use your imagination about which ones, you have a duty to retreat. So somebody, is coming into your house, you don't get to defend yourself. You're like, dude, hey, we're on our way out. Just take what you want. Close the door before you leave. What if they're armed? All right, well, the castle laws, at least in North Carolina, it's actually kind of neat. You're allowed to protect your home, your vehicle, and where you work. Now, that also presupposes your employer allows you to have a gun at work. Some might not. It kind of varies. You also have to keep in mind that when you're going to contemplate shooting somebody, and, arguably you might not have a lot of time to think about it, in North Carolina, if you're attempting to break in, you can shoot them. If they're attempting to carjack you or something, you can shoot them. They're in your work threatening, you can shoot them. And what do I mean by threat? Well, again, North Carolina is defending yourself or others from threat of immediate death, serious injury, and sexual assault. You also have to pass a reasonable person acid test, meaning would a reasonable person consider your actions to have been legitimate? And who is the reasonable people we're talking about? Well, initially it might be a law enforcement officer. It might be a district attorney or assistant district attorney, because they have to make a determination of, well, did you create this crisis or were you responding to the crisis? And, in some states, if somebody threatens you, like they say, I have a gun and I'm going to shoot you, that is threat of immediate death, serious injury, or sexual assault. So they're threatening you. You now have the right to defend yourself because they are threatening your life. Now, in North Carolina, yes, if you're trying to kick in my door at 2 a.m., I can shoot you. I'd like to think my friends would not be kicking in my door at 2 a.m. unless they called first. So in the castle law, because your home is your castle, you have the right to defend yourself. You don't have to let them in, meaning whether or not they're successful is irrelevant. All right, so they're trying to carjack you, you can shoot them. Trying to break in, you can shoot them. And in fact, my wife asked me this question once, which was, how far would I let them in the house before I shot them? And I said, well, hopefully before they get in the house. And that would be the smart answer. And she's like, well, what about all the dogs? I said, well, I can promise you I'll do my best not to hit the dogs. And keep in mind, I will shoot through the walls to hit somebody. I said, this is not Hollywood. Okay, but back to subject. Reasonably justified. Would a reasonable person consider your actions to have been legitimate? All right, we get into a fight that's just a normal fight. Is your response commensurate with the amount of force being used on you? So you're just kind of, grappling and throwing each other around. Shooting them's a bit excessive. However, North Carolina law also has a neat thing. If somebody's in your house and is attempting to leave, you don't get to shoot them then. You don't get to stop them and then shoot them. I mean, it's a cool idea. But if they're attempting to leave, what they're saying is that the situation is about to de-escalate. And that's okay. You might not be happy with it, but it'll be much easier for everybody if law enforcement were called and then arrested the person. So, what about trespassing? Well, you might want to shoot them, but you don't get to. I mean, everyone's got this bonehead neighbor, and you want to shoot him. And then they show up on your property all the time. You still want to shoot them, but you can't do it legally. What you can do is tell them to leave. And if they don't leave, then you can call the police. But just to summarize very quickly, the castle law means you have no obligation to retreat. Unlike being in, I think, New York, Connecticut, I think Maine, where you get to run away. The stand your ground laws, to me, are a little weird, and quite frankly, I'm happier with the castle law. Okay, I know this was just a little bit long-winded about when you can and can't shoot. I'll be doing some more podcasts about some of the gun laws. And again, I'm going to be focusing mostly on North Carolina. And as always, feel free to call or text to 919-808-6480. You can email to info@quarterhorsearms.com. You can check out our website at quarterhorsearms.com. Feel free to also, provide comments, suggestions, etc. And this is Alan with Quarter Horse Arms in Snow Camp, North Carolina. Be safe out there.